Hey there, Ray of Sunshine Celeste. Gotta draw a worm on a string. That's an odd one. I haven't heard that one before. There we go, worm on a string. Why not? Ta-da! Hey, Black Fox, welcome. Well, I've been trying to do my streams a little earlier. 8 o'clock my time. I fell asleep, unfortunately, so I've been goofed up on that. But I'm here now. I agree. Yeah, technically I'm late, but to be fair, I did come into my office and sit at my desk and then fall asleep, so I was intending all of the best, unfortunately. Not incredible, but it was better than nothing. So. Can't believe you guys weren't here for my amazing request that somebody had. The very first thing that popped up when I jumped into stream was, "Can you draw a worm on a string?" So there you go. There's a worm on a string. He's a happy little guy. Not sure why they wanted a worm on a string, but there you go. Worm on a string. Now I'm drawing a badger girl because that's what I want to draw. You're just a little too wide in general, aren't you? Yeah, I saw that. So that's where my enthusiasm for that particular request went out the window. Yeah, I don't know why my Twitch notifications don't work. They just don't. Like, I start the stream and then I'll update the stream information, then hit done, but it doesn't really seem to matter. So it's whatever. She's not based off anything in particular. Just kind of popping on my head. Hey, Dynamic Cat. Yeah, the Twitch app is not great. The Badger Girl is probably best derived from many years of reading Brian Jake's books. Eulalia and all that. Yeah, it's been a while since I've checked out any of the Redwall books. Definitely need to check those out. I do gosh, there's a text adventure game on Steam now. That's officially it's a Redwall product, but it's called Escape the Gloomer. And it's very much like Zork. It's very much like the old text adventures, but it's completely narrated. It's a pretty cool experience. I've only gone through a little bit of it. Kind of reminds me of the same feeling that I got going through Warlock of Firetop Mountain. So good stuff. Brian Jakes, yeah, Brian JACQ, yeah, JAQC. Is it? I think it's the JACQUES. Yeah, Jakes. Brian Jakes. British man with a French last name. Yeah, he passed away. Oh wow, it's a while ago now. But his books are very good. If you're into visual storytelling, his style is very good. Yeah, Black Fox, you'd enjoy the books quite a bit. I do think it's interesting how, kind of like in a very Beatrix Potter way, he pigeonholes specific races, or I guess specific species, as good and bad characters. Foxes are usually bad, rats are usually bad, weasels are bad, mice, otters, squirrels, hedgehogs, those are all good characters. But no, there's plenty of room to surprise you. There's a ton of the books. They're all good. And they were all written by Jakes. He didn't it was back before a popular fantasy series could be written by multiple people. But he wrote all of them. He also didn't merchandise his books when he was alive, so there's no merch, there's no games. The BBC cartoon was probably the furthest out from that, I would suppose. But those are fairly well based on the books. But if you read anything, I think you'd enjoy Mossflower, which is like a prequel to the series. Includes the stories of Martin the Warrior. There's also books that go deeper into the past of them. Martin the Warrior is also like one of the original books. The book before that is Luke the Warrior. It's his dad. But yeah, it goes Redwall, and then Matameo, and then Mariel of Redwall. Gosh, I mean, I read a bunch of them. I read quite a few of them. Jacques, yeah, Brian Jakes. I believe it was Jakes when they originally brought it to my attention, but I could still be very wrong. But yeah, good books, not hard to get through. Some of the more violent books I read when I was but a wee one, so definitely worth your time. Good fantasy, good low magic fantasy, I guess, is a good way of putting those. Definitely not like tons of magic in there. Feels more like King Arthur kind of situation. And the badgers in Redwall were kind of a rare species, a rare race. They were all warrior kings for the most part. They all had a mountain in the south called Salamandastron, which was basically a massive mountainous fortress where they would defend the realm against sea rats and other nasties. A little muffled. Let's see. I might just not be talking very loudly. It's entirely possible. I also was not up on the mic very much. Just apparently lazy today. My anatomy's not doing very well today. Kind of, yeah. A warrior race that, like, I guess you could say badgers in Jakes' world were rare for the reasons that they were strong and powerful, but always drawn to war. Not necessarily in like a conquering way, more in a defending way. The badgers were all very honorable. Very paladinish without really the implications of a paladin. They were always attended to by hares. The hares of Salamandastron were known as the Long Patrol. And they were all batshit crazy, which was great. They were just like crazy British soldiers. Think Catch-22, and you're halfway there. The new dog's doing very well. He is learning every day. We've only had him for a little bit over a week now, and he is doing wonderfully. He, yeah, he's I don't know what else to say aside from he's kicking ass. He's still got some tummy troubles, some digestion problem, but we've got a appointment at the vet ready for him, so hopefully we can get that taken care of. And after that, I mean, once we get that cleared up, he's going to be good to go for a long time. Yeah, the badgers, they're few in number, but they are very impressive. Just in terms of their gosh, what's the term? Their ferocity. They kind of have a built-in racially. They kind of have a bloodlust. Once they're in battle, usually with a righteous cause, they'll get very, very, very intense when it comes to warfare. Usually, the Badger Lords of Salamandastron typically do not survive very long, like to produce heirs or anything. Badgers typically come to Salamandastron because they're called. So interesting in general. They actually have a whole couple of books that are specifically about the Badgers. I think Lord Brocktree is one of them. And he's one of the first lords of Salamandastron. But each book, there's typically a new lord. Since each book is a little bit disjointed in terms of time, I think aside from Redwall and Madimeo, the other books are not immediate sequels of each other. But they all do reference each other, so you have some characters who are minor or small characters in one story, but then they may be, leadership or like an abbot at the Redwall Abbey, which is where everything kind of centers around. The first book, though, Redwall, is quite good because it talks about the siege of Redwall Abbey. I get from Clooney the Scourge, is a sea rat of some renown. Very interesting character design with Clooney. not really a sea rat, but more of a marauder. And his tail, he would use his tail as a whip, and he had a poison barb that he installed on the end of his tail. So he was a very formidable enemy. The rats are much larger than mice in Redwall, so very physically imposing. Yeah, Clooney the Scourge, he was badass. Not that you like the bad guy, but, you know, he was pretty cool in terms of his design. The snake, Asmodeus. Yeah. There were very few non-mammalian characters in Redwall. Again, I think it kind of comes to like the Wind in the Willows style, Beatrix Potter kind of classic British storytelling. Animal stories like British folk tales were very similar to that. Yeah, Asmodeus was very, very, very cool. I don't think Asmodeus really had any peer. The owl was pretty sweet. I liked the Sparrow warriors. Very high in the bell tower at Redwall Abbey, there was a tribe of sparrows that initially were hostile, but ended up becoming friends of the Redwallers. There's also, I believe, Mossflower Wood was also patrolled by a... Mossflower Wood being the place around Redwall, but was patrolled by a group of shrews known as the Guzum. The Guerrilla... What was it, G... Yeah. The Guzum is the guerrilla union of shrews in Mossflower. And they were led by a shrew whose name and status was Logalog, and they were pretty cool. Very much like pygmies. I've redrawn this torso like 7 times already, so I don't think it's going anywhere. Sparrows, yeah, the Sparrows were friends of Redwall Abbey, and they also participated in protecting some of Martin the Warrior's artifacts. One of them was the shield of Martin the Warrior. I can't remember where the sword was. That was something that was interesting in the first few books, was that Martin the Warrior was kind of a folk hero figure that was kind of a not kind of a larger than life kind of character. And then you get to know who Martin the Warrior was in the prequel to the stories called Mossflower, which ironically was the first book that I read in the series. But you get to learn more about how he helped free Mossflower from Sarmina, the Wildcat. Yeah, now that I remember, Asmodeus had the sword, and that's why it was so dangerous for Matthias to get it, was that Asmodeus had it. Asmodeus also inadvertently creates the villain in the 3rd book. Oh, if you didn't see previously, I drew a dragon. I'm just kind of chilling. Ta-da! It's a pretty good Durg. It was a Durg that I made out of annoyance. I was like, okay, worm on a string, gotcha. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and draw a dragon because I'm annoyed. Oh, yeah, this is the Field of Hopes and Dreams, I think. If I'm not completely incorrect. Yeah, Deltarune's got some good tracks in general. I love Rude Buster in general. Rude Buster is one of my favorites. I like Lancer's theme, but that's just because Lancer is like the sweetest little kid. Like he definitely has little like younger brother syndrome. But it's good stuff. Yeah, I heard good things about Warriors. That was a little bit after my time, I think. Oh, hell yeah. It's Persona 5, isn't it? Yeah, it is. What the heck song is that? Oh, yeah. Arc. Yeah, I saw Persona 3 Reloaded is out. So that's exciting. Anything more that expands on Persona is always good to me. But yeah, you can't go wrong with any of the Redwall books. Like I said, it's more like kind of like a classic British fantasy. Low magic setting, almost a no magic setting. Yeah, I heard good things about the Warriors series. Anything that gets people to read works for me. Oh, hell yeah. No. Persona 5 tunes are some of my go-to listening music. Although, just yesterday, I was once again smitten with the Mass Effect soundtrack. And gotta say, Mass Effect 2 has some bangers. If you're ever into a sci-fi, epic sci-fi story feel, Mass Effect has you covered with good stuff. It's probably the least badger-looking badger I've drawn in a while, but damn it, she's a badger. That's something I just remembered about the Badger Lords of Salamandastron. They were all smiths. At the very least, most of them were very talented smiths. And it's a Badger Lord that was responsible for the creation of the Sword of Martin. I think in terms of good music in Persona 5, Rivers in the Desert is a really good one. The general theme is also incredibly well done, but Rivers in the Desert, excellent. Yeah. Yeah, no, the Badgers being Smiths works pretty well. It's interesting, too, because, like I think I said it before, the Badgers come to Salamandastron, like they feel called to it, almost like the Round Table kind of thing. There are no bears in Redwall, because there are no bears in England. The species that are primarily prevalent in the Redwall series are mostly the ones that you could find in the English countryside. Interestingly enough, some of the most dangerous creatures you don't see very much. They kind of are like beasts of legend, but I think in Mossflower, if I remember, there's a kingfisher, very dangerous, very very similar to like a dragon kind of situation. In Redwall, actually, there's a couple of books. A pike. Several times there's good water crossing scenes, and a pike has been very, very dangerous. Clooney the Scourge he's missing one eye because he fought a pike, and it kicked his ass. But he killed the pike. It just took his eye. But yeah, no bears. At least from what I can remember. This was many, many years ago that I read it, but yeah, foxes. Gosh, there are no wolves, because I don't believe there's any wolves in the English countryside. But yeah, there's foxes. There's specifically a book called Marl Fox. It's about some very dangerous foxes that kind of wrecked up Redwall pretty badly. They were very different. Gosh, I remember there was an interesting one called Mariel of Redwall. That was about a mouse who she didn't grow to use the sword and shield of Martin the Warrior, but she had a knotted rope that she used with deadly efficiency called Gullwhacker, and she was pretty cool. Lots of good characters. I know in the original Redwall, one of the main characters that was at the Abbey, her name was Constance. She was a badger. Yeah, wolves are unfortunately not very common in that area. Man, I am just not firing on all cylinders for this today. But yeah, long story short, Redwall books, they're good books. They definitely can get you in the mood for more fantasy. I think, gosh, if I remember correctly, I was into Redwall, and then that brought me into Dragonlance. Just went on from there. Quite enjoyed all of those books. So, except Dragons of Summer Flame. Dragons of Summer Flame was terrible. Ruined everything. One of the only times where I do not like the halfling character is Dragonlance. Okay, yeah, Tanis was definitely not a great character. I mean, they built a character who his entire character arc is, I'm a half elf and that shouldn't matter, but it matters. And I just got so frickin' sick of him. Ugh. Gave me a bad taste for Rangers until I watched Lord of the Rings. I was just like, there we go, that's a Ranger. That's how Rangers are supposed to work. Cool and enigmatic and super sweet, and then, you know, an awesome statesman as well. Good old Aragorn. Yeah, if I oh, Raceland was badass. I love Raceland. Another great series. Yeah, I guess tonight on Fabian Zib Draws Shit While He Talks, fantasy book recommendations. While I can't recommend all of Dragonlance, anything having to do with Raceland is pretty awesome. Anybody else have any fantasy books that they like? I do have to recommend not only Redwall and Dragonlance, but Patrick Rothfuss's The Name of the Wind. Fantastic book. If I were to describe it using other books as reference, imagine something with the breadth and world building of Lord of the Rings, with the accessibility and understanding of Harry Potter. So something that's easy enough to get into, you know, like Harry Potter was easy enough to get into. Magical kids in danger. Done. You know, a lot of people knew what school was. A lot of people know what would really love to be in magic school. So it was a very easy premise for people to eat, you know, and understand. Same thing with Name of the Wind. Magic school and huge world building opportunity. Also, it huge deal for me because the main character was a bard. So there you go. Name of the Wind is interesting in the aspect of the story is told from the main character's point of view, trying to dispel the myths that have surrounded his life. Like, you know, oh, it's Kvothe and he's Kvothe the Bloodless. You know, they whipped him in the town square, but he never bled. And yeah, he basically is telling the storyteller, like, no, look, I took a medicine basically that made it so I wouldn't bleed as much because I didn't want to freak people out. It's interesting. It kind of goes into more about how stories are born and how myths and legends are born. So it's a very good book, and I highly suggest it. Yeah, Name of the Wind. And if I remember correctly, the second book in the trilogy, because of course it's a trilogy, is Wise Man's Fear. It's also a good one. Yeah, you've been gun shy about unfinished books thanks to George R.R. Martin. Yeah, and funny enough, I did read through all of the books of Game of Thrones. They really shit the bed on that series. Yeah, I actually am poised to get into Witcher. Quite enjoy Witcher. I have been reading some of the Robert E. Howard Conan books, or short stories, I should say. Yeah, Conan. There you go. Yeah, Conan is good. If you're a fan of stuff like Dungeons and Dragons, the Conan books are an awesome example of what a good DM can provide in terms of storytelling and description. Howard is really good at setting the stage when it comes to settings and feelings and just the sense of a place, the sense of a thing. Interestingly enough, while I absolutely love the Schwarzenegger Conan movies, the Conan in the book, the real Conan, Howard's Conan, is very human and very interesting in the fact that he gets scared, he runs away from shit a lot. Not that he's a coward, but more of these he's realistic. The descriptions in the one that I'm reading, I believe it's like the priests of Balakat, something like that. He's talking about how Conan moved, and he was saying that he's like a jungle cat. You know, he moves silently, and he's, you know, zipping around in the shadows. He's not like just barging in, sword swinging. Like he's very tactical in how he moves, very silent. So just very interesting stuff. Robert E. Howard, the original Conan books, they're all short stories. If I remember correctly, Howard never wrote more than like a novella. He was just a very obscure author at the time. Most of his stories were short stories that were in pulps, like magazines and such. But good stuff, definitely. If you're looking for good fantasy, good dark fantasy and low magic fantasy. Yes, that's the thing. Like the first Rambo movie, Rambo First Blood. Rambo doesn't kill anybody. If like not in the Rambo way. The first movie was all about Vietnam veterans. I thought that was fascinating that Rambo became this, like, you know, action crazy hero. And nothing against Rambo. I love Rambo. But yeah, First Blood was a very interesting movie in the fact that he was not like this gun nut, this, you know, shoot 'em up dude. He was just a dude who was pushed too far. It was more commentary on how people treated veterans of Vietnam. Series of the book. It's technically a post-apocalyptic fantasy following a bunch of animal characters suddenly waking up in an unfamiliar place. Each book followed one of the main characters. The first book followed Runt, a tomboy fox lady. The second book followed the triplet rats. Interesting. Not one that I've heard of, but that sounds interesting. Reminds me of that post-apocalyptic game Biomutant that had such high hopes for, that just got panned. Just completely panned. Okay. That's enough doodling, I think. I'm going to switch over to some comicry here. Okay. Anytime. You gonna work or not? There we go. Oh, I think you're thinking of Mutant Year Zero. That's the one that had the mutant, basically Mutant XCOM. Biomutant was a little different. They called it a Kung Fu epic. Kind of an action RPG. Just didn't turn into much, I guess. People just weren't as impressed with it. But no, I know exactly which one you're talking about. Yeah, Mutant Year Zero looked interesting. I think it's definitely got some yeah. Cat, like, kind of cat, hamster, squirrel thing. Not enough customization with the character either. Yeah. Funny enough, I own Biomutant, but only because it was on sale on Steam, I think, at one point. And I got it, and I was just like, okay, and I played a little bit of it, and I was like, this really isn't that impressive, and I just wasn't very pleased with it. And I was like, maybe I should just return it. Maybe I should just, get a refund on it, because I only played a little bit of it. And then I saw on GOG they had it for free. So I got it for free, and then I returned it on Steam. Yeah, they made some real questionable choices with that game, unfortunately. I think it had a lot of potential, but it definitely just kind of went. Gosh, I even think that game was like kickstarted, wasn't it? Not that I remember, but yeah, it definitely was trying to be too many things. Like I think the review of it being like a kung fu epic was definitely accurate. Because it felt a lot like it's another game that I have to go through. It's an old BioWare game, Jade Empire. It felt like they were going for Jade Empire, which isn't a bad thing by any stretch of the imagination. But again, it's like, are you a post-apocalyptic game? Are you a furry game? Are you a kung fu epic? What are you? And it's funny that you mentioned Mutant Year Zero, because I think Mutant Year Zero is a superior game in the same, with a similar premise, because at the very least the characters knew what they were. But yeah, no, it's interesting. A yield sign actually wouldn't be a bad, if you were to pad it enough. A yield sign wouldn't be bad. It would be kind of like a heater shield. So yeah, it's not a bad design. Pardon my yawning. I am not bored, I am just tired. Oops. Wah, 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 dog tired. I mean, you're not wrong, but the dog is a total peanut, and I love him to bits. So, if there is a good tired, it is a dog tired. Yeah, I've been so preoccupied these last couple of weeks. I have not caught up on pages, so I'm running dangerously low to being. I have pages for 2 weeks from now, but I just realized I'm like, oh man, I have very few pages left in my backlog, so I'm gonna have to fix that. Oh God, Jesus. Clearly, young adult novel of the year. Wow. That's pretty macabre. Man. It's like, I'm not a perfectionist, but I definitely... I draw stuff, and then I look back at it, and I'm just like, what the hell was I doing here? So the scale on this is completely off. I think I was just trying to get something drawn, but that usually ends up getting me in trouble anyway. Let's do this. Let's drop that down to a big old nothing. Actually, what we'll do, let's save this real quick. Save. Okay. Let's do... Oh, God, no. There we go. Can I get anything here to... Okay, that'll do. We'll just do that. Pencil. Yeah, I can't say that series sounds familiar. At least I don't remember reading it myself. All this Persona 5 music is making me think I should play Persona 4 at some point, because I have not. 4 seems really good, though. Let's see, maybe I've got another page that I'm more interested in. This one's just not... This one's not hitting for me. Just not hitting me. This one's pretty far in the future, but we can work on that. Sounds like a very angsty series. Nothing wrong with that, but sounds like a very, very dark, angsty series. That is one I might have to redraw. Foreground one's fine. The one in the background's not great. I think, oh gosh, it was a long time ago, but there was a book I read. I think we all had to read it at one point or another, but Where the Red Fern Grows. That one's always stuck with me. I think the other one that I liked in that same kind of vein was My Side of the Mountain. Oh, yeah, there was a movie of that, wasn't there? At the age where reading and writing sucked for you. Yeah. I think we all... We go through at least one period in life where we don't like to read or write. Hopefully that's something that you got over. Reading and writing are good stuff. Even just reading. Yep, Old Dan, Little Ann, the Coonhounds. That was also one of those books that freaked me out as a kid because a kid literally died in it. And at that point in time, I was just like, oh, so young people can die. That's not what I understood, but... Oh, man. It's funny. It's not that I'm not feeling motivation. It's that I'm not pleased with the stuff I'm working on. It's not... I'm looking at the sketches and I'm going, why did I do any of this? Well, yes, Immortal Children would be scary. But you know how it is with being young and having a, having a invincibility complex. Although it does paint a very interesting picture for me anyway, because it gives you more of a perspective when it comes to characters dying in a story. It gives you more perspective in life being a fleeting thing and something that's very precious. It should just be enjoyed when it can. I don't know. It's interesting. It's interesting. Oh boy! Oh boy! Oh boy! Problem is, I sketched a lot of these weeks ago, and I'm now not finding I'm enjoying them. Yeah, there's absolutely different things you can teach with character death. I think, unfortunately, a lot of the stories that I've enjoyed have had some very cheap death. that wasn't used very well. I always think back to Outlaw Star, the anime, and when they kill off Hildy, I think it's her name. It's like it's such a letdown because the character's so interesting and has so much to offer the story. I think it was kind of cheap. I kind of feel like they did a lot of that in Attack on Titan as well. Just kind of a shock kind of situation where it's just like, hey, look at these characters that you've learned to grow and care about. They're dead now. Like the suddenness and the permanency is such a shock that I think it's what kind of gets most people. Yeah, I did get that one done. And that one's coming up next. Ah, man. Let me find something here to work on that I'm actually pleased with, because some of these pages just are not doing it for me. How's everybody else doing this evening? Kind of a lame question to ask, but I'm running low. Oh, going after them Chivos. I see. Going after the Chivos. Oh yeah, Frostpunk. I've heard good stuff about that. Average Canadian Winter Simulator. I like it. I just imagine Canada is essentially just the movie Snowpiercer. Okay. Trying to determine if this style is what I wanted to do for Katya's new armor. Because I think I nixed the gloves and I was happier about it. I think that's the case anyway. Yeah. In terms of storytelling, is it a good idea to show a character always struggling to meet their goal? Like, they'll get there eventually, but they're constantly out of their depth. I believe in classical storytelling, that's almost always the case. Having a character with a goal is kind of step one. And then what is standing in the way of that goal is usually part of the conflict that makes the story interesting. If there's nothing standing in the character's way and everything is easy for the character, the story isn't interesting at all because nobody can relate to that. The story needs to have some conflict in order to make it worth listening to. Otherwise, it's just a listing of somebody's accomplishments. Um, if you were to say, Arthur was a well-liked young lad and his adoptive uncle and adoptive brothers were super nice to him all the time. One day he pulled a sword out of a stone and became a king. Is that an interesting story? Does anything happen in that story that makes it relatable? No. I actually quite like the Sword in the Stone cartoon from back in I think it was the 60s or 70s, that Disney did, because Arthur was this scrawny, wimpy kid that Merlin kind of took pity on, and definitely made it much more interesting with his conflict, like having to be this runt that no one believes in him or anything like that, and then he's the one who pulls the sword from the stone, and it makes it way more interesting when the character has to fight through something. Maybe not even fight through something, but they have a conflict that they have to overcome. It's very similar to writing RPG adventures, in the fact that you can have a villain that is very simplistic. That villain isn't going to be very interesting, though. When you have Grud, the hobgoblin, who his only thing is war and he loves to kill, it's like, well, okay, that's great. He has no depth. There's nothing interesting about him. Why is he like this? Is there a reason? Is there something he's struggling against? So it's like maybe struggling isn't the best way of going about it, but characters should always be striving to overcome the conflict that is keeping them from getting what they want. In my opinion, that's what makes a good story. A character being out of their depth is actually good, because if a character is doing something that is beyond them, or a character is doing something that's challenging them, then it's forcing them to grow, if that makes sense. If a character has to go outside of their comfort zone and do something that they've never done before, or something that they very rarely do, in order to accomplish their goals or to get closer to what it is they want, they grow as a character, and that makes them more interesting. Whereas, like I said, if everything's handed to them, it's not a great story. And you can certainly do it. I mean, that's the fan fiction boom of the 90s was very much a good example of that. When you have somebody making a Sailor Moon fan fiction, you have, this character is Sailor Beetlejuice. And Sailor Beetlejuice has all the major powers of Sailor Moon and Sailor Jupiter and Sailor Mars, and she's super hot, and she, when you go through all of that, it breaks the character down into nothing more than a Mary Sue, and that is, in my opinion, bad storytelling. Power fantasy is, power fantasy would be a good way of describing it. There's a difference between power fantasy and character growth. One could argue that, I certainly don't, but one could argue that Conan is a power fantasy, male power fantasy. He's a barbarian, he's strong, he's fast, he's quick, he's silent, he's dangerous with a blade. But what makes Conan interesting is he gets scared. He's very cautious. He's constantly being surprised. He's constantly being gotten the drop on, which makes you root for him, which makes you want him to win, which makes him want to see him succeed, because he's under the gun. He's behind the eight ball. Conan isn't always in control of every situation, and that's what makes it interesting when he does come out on top. It's kind of a classical storytelling device. I believe it's called the hero's journey, and it involves the hero coming from little to nothing and then growing as a result of the hardships that they endure. So it's a very common literary technique, but it's a good one. Comes from way back in the day. Yeah, absolutely. That's a really good way of putting it. He is a power fantasy in so much as that he is capable in almost every situation. Not necessarily proficient or even like dominant in every situation, but he is capable. He does have to work for everything, which, yeah, I mean, that's a very good point. I think if you focus on the imagery that you see from like Frank Frazetta, from Boris Vallejo, from some of the classical artists, which, by the way, there's nothing inherently sexist about them or an inherently like like male power ego fantasy thing. It leans that way, but it's interesting because the imagery that the artists have put forth, especially for Zeta, I would say Vallejo more. Frazetta was more about the savagery of Conan, but if you look at some of the imagery, it definitely kind of pushes in that direction, as like a fantasy. But no, that is an interesting point. I do like that aspect. Being capable despite his situation. That's a very good point. Oops. Yes. That, honestly, that was kind of on the tip of my tongue, the isekai shows. Oh my god, I am so tired of isekai shows. The original batch of them was not terrible. Like, I actually quite enjoy that time I became a slime. I actually quite enjoy that show because Rimuru is an interesting character. Yeah, Digimon's a good one. But yeah, Rimuru is a good character in the fact that he isn't a jerk about his power. He isn't a jerk about who he is as a character. I will say, like most isekai shows, it's annoying that it's like, what did I describe it to? I described it to somebody before as something. Power Creep, the show. That was essentially what I referred to it as. Was, it's cool that Rimuru has powers. It's cool that he can do all this stuff. He just constantly has to have new powers to legitimize his character, and that can be kind of frustrating at times, especially when they have other characters that are very interesting. Like, if anyone has seen that show, Gabiru, he's one of my favorites. He's a lizard man, and he has a hype squad. It's one of my favorite things. Gabiru. But yeah, no. The I'm good at everything all at once characters, they definitely are difficult to swallow. Again, it's what makes good characters. Good characters are defined by their shortcomings. Oh, dude, there's no. I mean, I kind of have a soft spot for Gaston because he's such a terrible character. He's such a terrible person. in every sense of the word. And it always strikes me funny that at the beginning of Beauty and the Beast, it's just like, oh, Gaston, no, he's so amazing, he's so great. He's an asshole. It's like there's so little redemption for Gaston that I can't help but like him, because it's like, no, you're a total dick. Like, you are an absolutely terrible character. You're a train wreck. I can't even call him a villain, because he's just such a like a nega Chad. He's awful. Yeah, that's the whole thing, is that everybody in town thinks he's great. Everyone, oh no, Gaston, he's great. Gaston is the absolute epitome of peaked in high school. He is peaked in high school, the character. He is Uncle Rico. He's Al Bundy, you know. And it makes him very one-dimensional as a character. He's like, I'm a big, strong man, and I'm really cool. It's like, all right, cool. What else do you do? I'm big and strong. We already went over that. Oh, did I tell you I'm big and strong? Yes. That being said, Beast is also kind of an asshole of a character. So it's hard to find a good, dog in that fight. Like, I don't like Beast's character. I mean, the whole thing, you're not supposed to like Beast. I mean, he's a prince who was a dick, and he got cursed as a result. And it's like, now, in order to not be Beast, you have to not be a dick to somebody. And he's like, well, clearly I have to be a dick to everybody now. Nah, it's interesting. Yeah, Gabiru at least has some redeeming qualities to him, in the fact that he is like you said, he's slightly humble. I mean, he's like he does like respect his dad as a ruler, and he's like, well, no, my dad's a really powerful ruler. Oh, you do really good, Gabiru. Oh, I mean, maybe I might have some ideas. Yeah, Gabiru. And he's like, okay, yeah, cool. If anything, if there's anything that holds him back, it's his fucking hype squad. God, yes. How much you bet I can hook an axe over that there mountains? Oh, Uncle Gaston. But yeah, I like to refer to that as peaked in high school. Nothing wrong with that. At the same time, character doesn't really grow that much. Also, I like this Katya expression. Oh, you silly girl. Yeah, Napoleon Dynamite is a great movie. I kind of like to describe it to people as like, it's not great in the fact that it is some incredible plot. It's not great in the idea that the characters undergo some incredible transformation. It's great because it's one of the most relatable movies about absolutely nothing. And I think it's great for that. Edit a cookie in her hand. Oh, man. Oh, that's what I was gonna do. Okay. Coming back to me, I was like, why does this seem wrong? Not necessarily wrong, just not what I was planning on doing originally. Oh, well, that was something else. In Beauty and the Beast, I watched the live action one with Emma Watson. Not bad. Not bad at all. Not bad. But it made me laugh that at the end, of course, they break the curse and she's, dancing with the prince and everything. And then she's like, what do you think about growing a beard? And I was just like, once you go furry, you can't go back. Oh, you poor stupid child. What was the pose I was thinking of with this? Yeah, with Keyscape it was more of like a double fist thing. Yeah. There we go. Like all French fairy tales, he was like 3 years old when he was when he was cured. Yeah. Ooh, other one. There we go. Yes, the S in cursed is very important because it absolutely means the exact opposite without that S. I was very confused for a moment. Very, very confused. Oh, man. I feel like I've just been piddling around this whole time. There was another gesture I was going to try with him. It was closer to... By the way, my whole treatise on good storytelling does not extend to my own work because I clearly do not follow my own advice. I'm working on it though. It's interesting because comic writing is very different in the fact that there's a lot more that goes into it. Yeah, this just isn't working. Yeah, it's very similar in the fact that yes, there is like a story structure that you need to have. Characters need to have their own arcs, and they need to grow and change and everything like that, and have conflict and everything. But it's interesting too because you do have to visualize it in a way that's not the same as standard writing, like for script or for novels or things like that. I really don't know a whole hell of a lot about writing. I try not to sound like I know what I'm talking about. But it is very different trying to do a comic versus writing something like long form in like a book or like poems or things like that. Because not only are you trying to get the dialogue and the narration down for the story itself, but you're also trying to get visually the story to work as well. So like not only does the writing have to flow, but so does the actual art. And obviously there's some room for interpretation there. I mean, like Randall Munroe, who does the XKCD comic, it's all stick figures. Yet it still manages to get the point across because his writing is so good. Well, I mean, I guess Black Fox, the important thing in that story is trust strangers, especially when you're alone and there's no one that can help you, because what are they going to do? You know, clearly the worst thing they could possibly do is turn you into a beast of some kind and transmogrify your entire staff into furniture. I mean, how often does that happen? I mean, how often are you picking up, you know, the New Canada Times and they're just like, epidemic of children being turned into beasts? It's like, no. You know, it's because most polite children would say, you know,
well, madam, my parents aren't home, so I really can't make a choice on that. But you're welcome to stay in the barn.
You know, something along those lines. I mean, come on, this kid could have been nice. Or he could have, I don't know, woken up one of his good-for-nothing servants that was asleep. Why the hell was a prince answering the phone? And another thing, do you think they were all asleep because it was some kind of conspiracy against him? Maybe they were part of it. Maybe this witch was in on the whole thing. Get some conspiratorial music here, so we have to have a conspiratorial talk. I think, you know what? I don't think that witch was there as just some kind of happenstance. I think she was a plant. I think the staff brought her there for the very purpose of, if not cursing, then possibly eliminating the prince. Sure makes Lumiere's situation look a little more sunny. Exactly. And I mean, like, what power is that? You know? It's like, you know, oh, that's Ethel. She eats children that are naughty and that eat her gingerbread house. And that's Joelle, and she curses mermaids that don't like their current situation. And what about you? I'm Beatrice, and I turn people into furniture. You're not welcome in witch school. Witch club ill needs someone such as you. Be careful, adventurer. One false move and you'll be a Davenport. I mean, now I've absolutely come up with a new character for a D&D game, but I hope you enjoy your new empire. Your Ottoman Empire. You're a footstool. Ah. I did like that the dog was a footstool. I think there was somebody who did a examination of the battle in Beast's castle against the furniture, and they were talking about the big fat lady that was the dresser, that she fell on a dude, and they're like, that person is absolutely dead. That thing weighs like 400 or 500 pounds. It's solid wood. Whoever got hit by that thing is completely dead. They were saying similar to, like, there were some other people in the raiding party that would have been absolutely decimated. Speaking of decimated, this song decimates my soul every time I hear it. I don't know if you guys picked this up at all, but I really enjoyed Tunic. That was a really good game. Yeah, it was very fun to play. man. One of the things that I actually kind of have an idea for a video that I might work on, has nothing to do with comics, but one of the traits that this particular game reminds me of, especially that ending theme, the bad end, if you will, has almost a noir kind of feel to it, like a 1940s gangster movie kind of feeling to it, which made me think of a video that I wanted to do. But yeah, I did finally see the good ending, and it breaks my heart because it's you go through so much. I did laugh that Finji finally put out a plush of Tunic, and it's marketed specifically as a huggable plush. And it's like, yes, because if there is any character that needs a hug, it's that frickin' little guy. What a journey. Ugh. I think I felt, watching the bad end again, I think I felt the most for the Fox mom, because at the bad end, it's just like, oh, she's just, I guess she's free or she's dead. I guess she's been, released from that. And it's just like, oh, she's just solid gone. Or in the good ending, it's just like, nope, everyone's there. Hooray. Good game. It does remind me at some point I do have to get back into the Further Adventures of Bird Doctor. I haven't played that in a while. Yeah, I do need to get back into that. Okay, comic work has kind of been a bust. Let's, maybe I'll do some sketching here. The bad ending used to be slightly different, you say? I think I might actually just save this one up and then start a new sketch. Boop, 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 boop. Aww. I mean, I would love a Tunic 2. I really would. Oh, Morgana, I have not drawn you. Ever, I don't think. Oh, did y'all see the announcement for Zootopia 2 2025? That'd be pretty cool. Probably wise for them to move, because I believe it was supposed to be 24 many years ago. Probably better that they moved past a election year. But yeah. Zootopia 2 2025. I think they missed a big opportunity to call it Tutopia, but then you could have gone really far with it, like Tutopia, Too Furious, But yeah, looking forward to that. It made me think. I was just like, oh wow, Zootopia. That's been a long time since I've seen that. I was like, that movie came out in 2016. 2016. 2016. Think back to 2016. Granted, yes, you could say it is almost a decade, since then. But 2016. My God. Also stunning in the fact that movie made literally $1 billion. You were in college. Black Fox was still in high school. I was in a movie theater watching Zootopia. This is the way we were. Yay. Big smiley Morgana. I have never drawn Morgana myself. I am excited though. I honestly hope that hope it's a good movie. The first one was so good. I guess my hope is to not see anything about it and not go into it knowing anything. Basically, like when I saw the first movie, I feel like that's the easiest way to see a movie without and not be disappointed. Is to just go in not expecting anything. The reason you asked a long question earlier is that I'm currently writing a story about how a former thief is forcibly inducted into a shadow org to do their dirty work. She's trained to kill, but has never harmed another soul and never wanted to ever since a traumatic event of childhood. Because of this, a lot of her coworkers call her a coward and weak-willed, her mentor especially, so her superiors sent her out on harrowing missions, putting her in situations where she will break or bend. What is too much suffering? That's a difficult question. Obviously, it's a difficult question. But there is a meme that I've seen recently that it's the oh gosh, I can't remember the I don't know if it's Elden Ring or Dark Souls or what, but it's like a large being kind of presenting a sword to another character, and the large being says, me as a writer, the sword is labeled all of the suffering, and then the person being given the sword says my favorite character. It's very true in a lot of situations that our favorite characters usually go through the most. Yes, I've seen that one too, Black Box. I've seen the I've seen that. So yeah, what is too much suffering? I guess that is Snake Lady. Are you referring to Master Viper from Kung Fu Panda? Because that was Lucy Liu, and I will 100% get behind that. Anyway, with Gray, I guess it all depends on what you want your character's arc to be. I will say it's hard to make a character go through a tremendous amount without providing them some catharsis or providing them some means of legitimizing that suffering. It's oh, Elden Ring, gotcha. Kind of how I've been dealing with the story with Kisuke here. One of the problems that I had with, not really problems, one of the challenges I had going out of chapter 4 was I have beaten, cut, knifed, lightning bolted, and just generally abused the hell out of this little raccoon. And now I've basically condemned him, to being a vampire. And to have this white fire and this vampire curse fight in his own body. And after I had established that, I had to step back and go, what is good about his life right now? I think one of Kisuke's strengths is the fact that he's very positive, to a fault in some situations. But I had to stand back and go, is this character able to handle this? Is there something good in this character's life that makes him want to keep going? Is there something I can look at that says, no, his life isn't terrible, and here's why? And with him, I had to start digging back into it and going, well, wait, no, he has a family. He has sisters that care about him. He clearly has parents off screen somewhere that care about him. And that's also where the relationship with Katya came in, was his life is not terrible because of his own attitude. It's something that'll be coming up later on, possibly in a side story, possibly in a actual physical comic book. But I had to go back and say, no, his life isn't this terrible nightmare curse. There are people that he cares about. There's people he loves. There's, a cause he cares about. I mean, even being a monster hunter with Katya, it means a lot to him. It makes him happy. So I guess it's hard to say what is too much suffering. Really more I would throw back at that. What makes this character happy? And what makes this character keep going? And I guess if you can't come up with a good reason for that character to keep going, you might need to spend some time crafting one. Because as you are probably already aware, no character is one-dimensional. No good character is one-dimensional. Most characters need a purpose. They need a goal. They need something that gets them up in the morning. Look at Aragorn in Lord of the Rings. Aragorn is conflicted because he's a Dunedain. He's, I think, 70 or 80 years old by the conclusion of the events of Lord of the Rings. He's a king that he doesn't want to be. He is in love with a woman that he can never have, at least according to the way immortality works. He is the only bulwark against darkness and despair completely sweeping over the lands of men. He doesn't want any of it. But his love for Arwen and his love for the Fellowship are huge motivators for him. And it's what keeps him fighting. It's what keeps him going. It's what makes him an interesting character. Because of all the things that he has to be, a king, a leader, a friend, he can do all those things because of what he has in his life. Even the confidence that Elrond has in him later in the story, bestowing on him the reforged Narsil, that's a huge confidence for him that pushes him forward. So I guess, in my opinion, again, I'm not a professional writer, but in my opinion, a character can withstand enough suffering proportionate to the amount of things that keep them going in their life. And that's a difficult question to ask, really, is how much suffering is too much suffering, because every character is a little bit different. And you can't have it kind of falls in the same problem of having a character that's too powerful as a character that can withstand too much suffering. It's another reason why it's a simple matter of finding out that someone in her mental graveyard is unbelievably alive after months of thinking that someone important to her is gone. Ah, okay. That's interesting. So kind of a flip on their perception. I mean, that's a huge turn for a character. Basically, I thought this person was gone. Yeah. Yeah, that's a hard one. And like I said, not a professional writer in any mean, but I guess you have to start looking at it from her point of view. Like, how painful would it be to discover this person was still there, or maybe even not how painful, but how disruptive to that person's thought pattern would it be to understand that this person is still there, this person is still alive. Kind of like what Sorry, I got distracted there for just a moment. Yeah, finding somebody that you thought was gone that is still alive can be a very traumatic experience. It can be a very like reverting experience. You may have, like, for example, if you understood that somebody had died and it caused you to change yourself in such a way that that it kind of altered your entire personality, and then you come to find out that person isn't actually gone, and has not been for some time, it would probably cause you to question the steps that you've taken. It would probably cause you to, or it would probably cause a character to question what they've done or how far they've come in that time frame. It's hard to say. Each character is different, so it's hard to say like what would break somebody might not break another. But the dog is always a distraction. Would it be reasonable for the character to unlock a part of themselves, giving themselves the drive and mental fortitude to see it with their own eyes? Again, depends on the character. I don't think it's a bad motivation. I don't think it's a bad shock to bring someone across the line, or to bring somebody to a different point of view or a point of thinking. I think it could work as a means of driving a character to see something in their own perspective, or to see something with their own eyes. I think that's certainly possible. And a lot of it comes down to framing. A lot of it comes down to just how that character interacts with their world and how it alters their perceptions. So, again, I apologize. I don't have a tremendous amount of advice for that, just without knowing a whole lot. But I think it'd be reasonable for a character withstanding that trauma of finding somebody not gone, finding somebody to still be alive, as positive as that can be for some characters. But to withstand that trauma, that would probably unlock something, if not, trying to think of words. Short answer, yeah. Yeah, I think it'd be reasonable. It depends entirely on your story, it depends entirely on your circumstances, your other characters, and how that fits into your story. But I think it'd be reasonable. It's a lot of caveats there, so sorry, but yeah. Nah, I wish I could be more use. I have a hard enough time making animal characters work properly, so. Yeah, I mean, suffering is a part of life, unfortunately. So it's what is the line from Princess Bride? Wesley says to Buttercup, he says, life is pain. Anyone who says otherwise is selling something. And yes, it's a very cynical way of looking at the world, but it does have, I mean, Goldberg does have a good point there in saying that, life is a series of successes and disappointments. There's a lot of growth in pain. I think that's the other point that they make, is that there is a lot of growth in pain. Now, it's not the only way to grow a character. A joyful thing can grow a character as well. A character experiencing the birth of their first child is a positive growth. Taking care of that child at 2 a.m, that's pain, but it's a positive growth. And that's true. Yeah. 2 people who are suffering can help to bring each other some redemption or some closure to that darkness. At the very least, they can identify and understand someone's pain. So I mean, that's positive. It's kind of how one of the things that I've kind of switched around since the first 2 chapters is that Kisuke used to be much more pessimistic. He used to be, I mean, even the whole thing with Cobalt Cave, like, none of this is going to work. We should be beet farmers. This is a terrible idea. Hiroko was the positive one and just the bubbly one, like, oh, we're gonna make it. We're gonna do just fine. And now in chapter 5, things have kind of inverted. Hiroko is pretty much down on her luck. Clearly, she's got some of her own demons. And Kisuke is much more cocky and sure of himself than he was before. And a lot of it comes down to shared trauma. A lot of it comes down to getting over that trauma. Just, it is one thing that I do want to say that, and I'm working against this too myself, is that trauma should not be the only thing in a character's life. They need to have something positive. Otherwise, it just becomes very, I don't want to say dull, but it becomes very frustrating when nothing good happens. It's like, oh, this character's just built to suffer. Yeah, well, I'm not interested in that. I want to hear something a character is doing that's positive. Shared suffering is definitely a way of having characters relate to each other. I wouldn't think that suffering would be the only aspect of that relationship that would be worthy of a story, but it can certainly be one part. That every story is different. Like I said, not a professional writer. Don't really know what I'm talking about. Just kind of going off of my own experiences. So. Okay. There we go. Yeah, I think I am going to be done for tonight. I've kind of lost my drawing mojo for the moment. Nothing you guys have done, just I'm petering out. We're going to need to speed back up and get some more work done on pages as we go forward, since I'm running low on those, but I should have more shortly. If you'd like to continue that conversation on Discord, feel free. I can get back to you once I am not passing out. The story starts on their wedding day. That's cute. Yeah, in any case, thanks for sticking with me, guys. Sorry the streams have not been going as long as normal, but I have puppy sleepiness, so it's definitely been a thing. Yes, thank you, Gray. I think what I'm going to end up doing is just turning off the internet on my Magic Rectangle and just giving that a shot. So, seeing if I can get that done. Anyway, y'all have a lovely evening. I will catch you later this week. Hopefully I'll have more art. So, thanks again for stopping by, everybody. Have a good night, and we'll see you later in the week. Bye-bye.